everybody to the latest episode of Podcast on the Go. And it's been a while since the last recording. It was, I think, last year. And the last topic was very deep, medical physics. If you missed it. So today we're going to be talking about politics here in the Philippines. It's no longer election season. We've already voted, and the results are trickling in. So we're gonna talk about. We're just gonna have a post-election or post-midterm election analysis of like what happened in general in different topics or in different perspectives with regards to the political or election landscape in the Philippines. So today I have a guest that I can bounce off ideas with regards to our current topic. So we have here Mr. Jesson Morata. He's a former teacher, former government employee, former what else? I forgot. Currently a marketing professional and also a content creator. He has a blog. I will link it if you can check it out. So Jesson, how are you?
I'm good, and thank you so much for having me in this discussion.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Let's go. I have here I have a very simple format. It's not the same format as before, since we're more usually when I have guests. We talk about a guest, right? But today, we're going to talk about our own analysis. So the first thing I want to discuss is let's talk about media.
Right.
The current role of media with regards to politics. So let's start with traditional, and then we'll move to social media because you have a background in both, like me. So, what do you think of the involvement of media, traditional media, in the recent like leading up to and maybe post the election? Because here's my analysis is based on like compared to previous elections. No, I think there's a dwindling involvement of traditional media, maybe because of as we discussed before we started recording, there's an onslaught of social media has caused an onslaught on the traditional media, and I think this somehow like reflected in our elections because or the state of our like election, like back and forth, not just from the candidates but from the supporter side, because I think I can remember like a few years or years and years back, they had the media's role was more prominent, and they had more like deeper breakdowns of candidates compared to like recently. So what do you think about that?
I think it would depend on what generation you are, that the voter belongs to. For example, if you are from the 50 to 60 or 50 to 70 age bracket, still they are very much attached to traditional media. They listen to AM radio stations, who carries programs on analysis, commentary. So they're still into that, and they're still into the print media. Of course, they read opinions. So their decisions, I think, are solely based on what they read and what they saw, or what they heard and what they saw on traditional media. That's TV and radio. For the young voters from the 20-ish to the 30 or late 30s, the vote or the choices that they make, I think, are solely based on what they consume on social media. because these are the age brackets which spends lots of their time on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, or even on digital media, which is very popular nowadays. I mean, you can see shows, TV shows on
This.
social media. So again, going back to what I've said earlier, the decision or the choices that they make or a voter makes depends on the preferences or the sources of information that he
Chose.
he consumes, something like that. So but for me, I'm a traditional. I was trained in a traditional media setup, but it's a vibrant world out there. I mean, you have to adapt to get to have readers, to influence your mind. So my decision or my choices on who to vote solely depend on the information that I got from the traditional media and from the information I got from the
Social.
new kind of media. But then again, if we would
Compare.
compare, traditional media still has the substance. I mean, they're more factual, they're more meaty. Information is there, numbers are there compared to the traditional. I mean, the social media,
Despite
which
some have
Yes,
inclinations
yes.
towards colors or
yes, something like that, and also there's always fake news. I mean, it's so easy to spread fake news nowadays, especially with the advent of social media. So again, going back, I think traditional media still played an important role in as far as the decision making of the voters, who to choose or who to vote.
So what about on the social media side? Do you think that more and more candidates are taking advantage?
I think that is also one. Our election laws need to be updated.
Yeah.
Because
They can run ads
media,
before.
I mean, candidates are no longer spending that much on the printed traditional posters. They're no longer,
But there's still
print.
lots of posters.
There's still, but a few, because a bulk of their budget now goes to their social media team. I know some candidates who are, employing techie individuals to be their social media team. So if you can see, if you browse,
What ads did you see?
there's a political team somewhere in the north. They have their ads there, and those who have employed really good social media teams do really have they have a dedicated sponsored page on a certain social media channel. So something like that. So
From the national, did you see any ad? Social in the new media?
yes, I still saw.
I-
And then there's another one who sent out text messages. Is he a national candidate? I was really
Shop.
shocked to
You have
receive
my
such
number?
kind of vote for me this coming election. So these are new modes of reaching out to the voters. So it's not years ago, early 90s, we only see
Did they
posters,
TV, radio?
ads, and even
Jingles.
newspapers. Jingles. Those irritating jingles which
Illegal jingles?
wakes you up in the morning, and then some of these jingles are
Catchy.
catchy and plagiarized. They don't they don't ask permission from the artist to. So going back to the question, again, a bulk of the budget spending goes to the social media team, which is not, I think, covered by our election laws. So that's
That's a gray area.
that's what our lawmakers should look into. just as the same with our traffic laws, which needs needs to be updated. It has to embrace with the times. The same with our election laws. I think that is something that has been
missed. Been missed.
That's a gray area.
So from jumping from social media, there are candidates that have risen because of social media. Have you heard of this?
Sorry?
There are candidates that have risen in the popularity because of social media.
The best example is our current president.
That was last year.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean last election.
Yeah, it was last election. That's a concrete example of how he was catapulted into power because of social media, because of
with volunteers, of course.
The volunteers. It was it was his social media team, the volunteers, who were social media savvy, who did a lot of work in getting to deliver. I mean, rising him into the popularities.
But what about for the midterm, the recent elections? Did anyone catch your attention?
I don't watch local TV. I don't have a television at home.
No.
Social media. There's a certain candidate which made rounds recently because of his dancing. Yeah. So I think that's
one.
That's one. For the local candidates, the current mayor of Cebu City is social media savvy. I mean,
I think he has a team.
He has a team. I mean, he has the wit. He has, he has that capability of really enticing, the followers or the readers to come up with intelligent discussion amongst the circles, because what he talks about in social media is kind of not really kind of, but it's relevant to what's happening.
Yeah, I think he's very good, or his team is very good at what do you call this, like customer relations or citizen relations management, but engagement. Yes.
Engagement. Yeah.
But I don't think, but it did not translate into votes. Maybe because most interactions are not necessarily voters. We don't know the breakdown of the millions of followers.
Yeah.
But I think for me, for the recent election, a candidate that rose because of social media, I think, was Doc Willie Ong. Have you heard of this candidate?
Yes.
Yeah, so he has a large following in Facebook, and he's been active in that as well. But I think he's in the top 20 as of the latest voting canvassing or tracking. But I think where he failed, I think he was relying on the organic.
Yeah.
And organic is gone in Facebook, and he did. I think he did not tap more volunteers compared
I think so.
to Duterte, because it lacked that push. I think he has the following. He has and I think it's not bot following. It's very organic following. But I think there needs more work to be done as to pushing it. And I think another candidate that stands out in general. Speaking of generals, who's the candidate that's a general today?
General De La Rosa.
Yes, General De La Rosa. So, have you heard of his many issues, or?
because of the controversies that he had months ago, I think that also paved way for the public to discuss his name always, all the
Yeah.
time. It's like brand recall. It's like
Brand
in
recall,
marketing.
yes.
It's like brand recall. If it's bad, whether it's bad news or good news, it's still news.
Yes.
I mean, the brand is there, the name is there, so people will always have that brand recall.
So you would agree that as a marketing professional, that the main miss of some of the candidates this year is marketing.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Because there were candidates who just came into the
They're
picture,
very qualified.
but they just came into the picture, and people did not know about them months ago, years ago.
Yeah.
So that's
They only started campaigning during the campaign
yes,
period.
and it's. I think it would be better if if a political party would want to establish a good core of candidates in the future, perhaps they would groom.
But that's another problem.
Yeah, that's
Our-
another thing.
Our
actually,
party system is not very strong.
exactly. That's another thing.
Another thing. I mean, we have so many. I think 150 party lists,
Yes.
and then we have 47. Oh wait, no. 60 or 70 plus senatorial candidates
Yes.
to choose from. So the votes were also spread even to the unknowns. No. And I think to dig deeper on, let's say, General De La Rosa's issue, I think most of the accusations thrown at him is that because he made a comment like, I need seminars for
Yeah.
what do you call this, being a senator. But I think people forget, like, maybe, and I mean, I've heard stories from my dad or my uncles or my lolos. Our senators in those times were, it's either yes, you're a lawyer, or you're a journalist, or you're a doctor, or mostly you have some
A writer,
writer,
teacher, professor, PhDs.
And now, like, people are ganging up on him because he's not qualified,
He
or
is qualified,
or he's not
but
educated or something. But when I checked, although I did not vote for General De La Rosa, but when I checked, he has a master's degree.
he is from the Philippine Military Academy.
Philippine
so-
Military Academy, and he has a PhD.
Yes.
I don't have a PhD. I don't have a master's degree. So I think he's very clever at using, attention. That he's making
Still-
himself look.
Whether it's bad or good, it's still
Yeah.
marketing. It's brand recall.
So I think the simplest definition of marketing is it's about getting people's attention.
Exactly.
And he's quite, I would say, not really good, but he's clever in terms of, like, maintaining that, attention on him. I think even when Duterte was having a SONA, he was
just clowning around.
he was clowning,
yeah.
but it was already attention.
Yes.
And it's how you use that attention to your advantage that made him I think he's in the top 10. He's in the top 10.
5? I think he's
Five?
on the fifth or
I have-
sixth in the list.
Forgot to check. Another thing that I also like, based on the results, the incoming results, is that a lot of incumbent, because people are talking about, like, there's this migrating,
yeah.
but people also missed, there's some wins, like good news as in the LGU or on the local government side, because there's a lot of incumbents who are from, or who are allegedly from, political dynasties that has been replaced by a person who's not from a political family, for example. So I have a list here.
the political kingpins were
Kingpins, yes.
toppled by ordinary citizens.
Or the
Not
usually
really-
known names.
Yes.
The usually known names.
I'll give an example. The Icleos of Dinagat Island.
Yes.
They for so many years they have
They have a cult. Or is it not them?
they ruled Dinagat Island, but now Dinagat Island has a new governor. It's Kakabagaw. I think she is a human rights lawyer, if I'm not mistaken. So there you see. I mean, it's the past midterm election is it's just an
There's some good and there's some bad.
some bad. I mean, like, it gives us a flicker of hope that it's not really hopeless.
Yeah.
I mean, there are still few areas here in the Philippines where the old kingpins,
Are
political
still
kingpins, are
power.
toppled by ordinary folks who have that desire to
For change.
change and serve the people.
So another to add to the list, we have Mr. Binay.
Binay,
lost in Makati. So Binay lost
Binay,
to Kid
yeah.
Peña in Makati.
Estradas,
Estrada's lost San Juan, Manila.
Manila.
And so Manila is the senior Estrada.
Erap,
Erap.
former president.
Yep. And then Bingbong Crisologo, the Ilocos Sur warlord, who dominated QC politics
Yeah,
for decades,
Quezon
lost.
City.
Then the Eusebius lost in Pasig. Fariñas lost in
Ilocos.
Amado Espino Jr. from the Espino clan in Pangasinan lost congressional bid. The Hagedorns lost in Palawan. The Gordons and Magsaysay suffered electoral wipeout in Zambales. And Cebu, of course, Osmeñas and
Osmeñas,
the Duranos lost
Yes.
as well. And as you mentioned, the Cleos lost. The Javiers also lost in Antique. The Plazas in Agusan,
Butuan.
del Sur.
Butuan, Agusan area.
Yeah.
They're
Then of course, a Pacquiao relative lost in Jensan. And the Halososes lost in the gubernatorial race in Zamboanga.
Zamboanga,
Norte.
Dapitan area.
So much more. That was just from the list that I got. So what can we take from this, from the current outcomes? Of course, we mentioned the good already. From the bad, we mentioned that yes, election laws need to be updated. And what about the Budots guy? What can we take from him?
Is he in the top 12? No?
I think it's fluctuating. Currently, as of recording, the only positions that have yet to finish counting, I think it's in the senators, and mostly the congressman and the LGUs are already finished. Although there are exceptions, like I think it's somewhere in Leyte. I think that there's potential dispute, like there's one vote to decide, or
Okay.
one candidate won over another just by one vote.
Oh.
I forgot. I just read it this morning. And yes, what can we take away from this recent election?
Well, I think most of the political kingpins have been toppled by,
From the younger voters.
If I'm not mistaken, majority of the total population of voters belong to the 20 to 35 or below 40. So these are the generations or the age brackets which are which I think are looking for a positive change. I mean, like, doesn't want to dwell on the status quo. I mean, this particular family has been in power for for so many years and still nothing has changed. So then it all boils down to the fact that the vast majority or the majority of the voters in these age brackets want something else, want something
New.
new. They would prefer someone who does not belong to a political clan, that would pave way for something else, for something better than the current status quo. So I think that's one of the factors also. And then also these age brackets are the ones who I think are more aware and exposed to information, so they know how to weigh things. So that I think would influence their
Decision.
choice of who they think is deserving to have that position.
So that's your learning for
I
the
think
local.
yes. So voters' education, it's still a long way to go. It's so dismal that lots of Filipinos still vote for that guy who dances budots
But for me, I most of the main banter I've read in Twitter and in Facebook, it's mostly blaming the lack of education, or they're not educated, or things like that. But I think it's not just education. It's one
voters'
factor.
education, actually.
I think
And
it's
then,
one factor.
That's the reason why it is always better that we prepare a week before the elections, because I know lots of my friends who, like a day before the elections, they haven't have that list yet, or they haven't decided who to vote. And then when they're there in the precinct, they just if they find this name was very familiar, and then they say that name, that ballot. So I think it's a moral obligation on your part to get to know the candidate, and days before you should prepare. I mean, and not depend on the sample ballots that are being given out to but those sample ballots are serves a purpose of someone else, or the interest of a certain politician.
Yeah, but I still think that education is just one factor, because I think there's still the factor of family pressure, and in general the culture of the area, because I don't know if you've heard the some talks around vote buying, that there's still vote buying today. I mean,
It is.
Yeah, the president
still rampant.
President said that it's normal, and of course it's normal, because it's something to do with culture. Now, even if you know that it's wrong, but the pressure around you is moving you towards that. It takes a lot of, I think, willpower to just resist it. And I think some of the voters who are educated, but at the last minute they are swayed because of family pressure and cultural pressure. Because, for example, for me, I've self-studied behavioral finance, and trying to understand why people spend the way they spend. And the outcome, or at least my conclusion, is that if knowledge is power, what's more powerful than knowledge? For what I found is that it's habits that are much more that overcome the knowledge that we have. For example, smoking. Cigarette smoking is dangerous to your health. I mean, it's a government warning. We know it's dangerous, yet we still smoke. So similarly with when we decide to vote, I've noticed some of the people I know, that they switch votes last minute because of some additional information or some
outside factors,
some direction from their family. Like I switched a couple of senatorial candidates because of what my parents said or what my sister said, but the general core of my list was still the same, but I did get swayed at the last minute, for some reason. So I think it's also true for a lot of the young voters, because at the end of the day they are still figuring themselves out, diba? Like maybe like 6 months ago they're very passionate about something, and then when voting comes they got swayed. Maybe they got swayed by the budots. Yeah, I think another learning for the losing candidates, I think, is that they need a better marketing team. Because
better platform also.
Yes, better platform and better marketing team.
So I think that should go hand in hand, because what will your marketing do if you don't have a good platform of government, if you don't have a direction, if you don't have a programs, if you don't have good programs? Because if you're in if you're a public servant, if you're in public service, it's the welfare of the public that you should look into, and not yours. If you are in public service, and to be specific, if you are holding a public position, that is.
Yep, I think that's the end for this post analysis. We can't cover everything.
Yeah.
So just let us know like your thoughts when I upload this in the various channels, in audio, in video, wherever. Let us know if you have more. If you want me or us to talk more analysis on specific topics. We try to cover a general scope, things that are not really talked about, because mostly what's talked about are complaints.
Yes.
Complaints, and not necessarily mostly focused on positive, mostly focused on negative. We try to cover both sides. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for listening, and thank you to my guest Jesson for this episode of Podcast on the Go.